I just discovered a history article called "Was Ancient Israel a Patriarchal Society?" And my first thought was, okay, this will be interesting. But to be honest, I was surprised at just how interesting it was. So right off, reading the first line of the abstract, it starts off pretty well with a seemingly unbiased definitional description of patriarchy. Apparently, the term only goes back to the 19th century. 20th century, it was accepted into biblical scholarship. And at the end here, taken together, these challenges provide compelling reasons for abandoning the patriarchy model as an accurate or adequate descriptor of ancient Israel. So, wow, that was unexpected. This is saying it's inaccurate to use the word patriarchy to describe Bible times, and we shouldn't use the term patriarchy to describe ancient Israel at all. Quickly checking the first line of the introduction and the conclusion confirms that this is the argument being made here. The last statement is particularly informative. The suggestion is that heterarchy is a more useful term than patriarchy because, to quote, women were not dominated in all aspects of Israelite society. So you're doing research on this topic. Since this article is really easy to read, you would have long decided whether it's relevant to you. I'd say it is. We want to know if the Bible oppresses women. So we go back and look in more detail. Now we'd read the complete introduction. It's easy to read, tells you what's in here. Not much more to say really. This article is good enough to read the whole thing. So the first section of the body is about how people started seeing patriarchy everywhere. On page 15, it describes how the Bible has been presented as sexist. Now, this is a pretty common mischaracterization, even in Christian publications, unfortunately. So it's interesting to know how this happened. But the second paragraph challenges these claims, saying they're crude, even cartoonish, not a fact of social history. Apparently, the misconception comes from the fact that ancient legal documents in various societies were not applied the way modern laws are. These days, we have a vast, complex legal system with police, prisons, courthouses, lawyers, social workers, and so on. But in those days, none of this existed. Laws were occasionally enforced by the king, but mostly just on the level of the local community, informally. Even today, laws on the books are not always enforced, and this was much more so in ancient times. So back to the article, it's not saying there was some kind of absolute equality in the ancient world, but that there was no vast dictatorial imbalance of power between ancient husbands and wives. So men tended to have more power, especially the top 1%, but women also had real power. They exercised it in the extended household and through community relationships. The third section is about women specifically in ancient Israel. There are some archaeological points indicating that older women wielded significant power over their households, which, by the way, had a status in the community more like a modern family business rather than a modern private home. And there's also a pretty impressive list here of evidence from the Bible that women had real power. For example, laws upholding the authority of the mother, stories featuring women making important decisions and having access to all the resources of the household without any kind of need to ask permission. Abigail's a prime case, but I can think of other examples that aren't mentioned here. Lots of evidence in ancient Israel. Women were empowered, not oppressed. So this is a really useful article if you're researching about women and the Bible. I don't agree with everything in it, obviously. There is a paragraph in there that seems kind of pointless, but as a whole, this article shows evidence-based insights into the place of women in the Bible. I would argue that the biblical paradigm equalizes and liberates women. Everyone, in fact, rich and poor, different ethnicities, the in-crowd and the out-crowd, liberating them all to become like Jesus, to live the good life. And only this will bring fulfillment and ultimate peace, especially in our relationships with each other. So that was a look at a historical article. Maybe I'll do some more of these. Please let me know if you'd like that. And I'll see you next time.